Hello and welcome to Season 4, Episode 6 of KittyCatGO Live, where we discuss various topics related to traveling, adventuring, training, and enrichment with your cat. I'm your host, Emily Hall, and tonight we're talking about finding a reliable cat sitter, something that's not always easy to do. So if you're watching with us tonight, be sure to say hello in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Questions are encouraged along the way as well. Our special guest for the evening is Tiah Rodriguez, a dedicated licensed veterinary technician and the owner of Super Tech Professional Pet Care Services, a mobile vet tech service providing pet care solutions to the busy pet parents of Metro Atlanta. With over 30 years of experience in the veterinary field and a lifelong passion for pet sitting that began in the 4th grade, Tiah brings her expertise and love to every pet she cares for. Just as you'd expect from a local pet superhero, Tiah addresses needs and problems to save the day for many pet parents by offering personalized care solutions tailored to each pet's unique needs. As a mobile vet tech and pet parent coach, Tiah proudly champions the well-being of pets with education, information, and perspective, supporting modern pet parents in their quest to provide the best care possible. Well, let's go ahead and bring Tiah on. Hi, Tiah.
Hey, hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. I'm so excited to chat with you, especially since we're basically neighbors, right?
That's right.
Well, I just read your bio so people know a little bit about you and what you do, but can you tell us a little bit more about you and your pets? Let's start there.
Sure. So I'm originally from New York, and that's where I got my veterinary technician degree. I attended SUNY Canton in New York State, and then moved down to Georgia and started working here. And I've been here since 1997. So I've been here time. I've just been working as a veterinary technician all that time in different clinics. And I have 3 pets. I have 2 dogs and 1 cat. The 2 dogs are mixes. They were found 2 separate areas. So I guess I rescue animals too. They're about the same age. One is 7, one is 10. And then the other pet that I have is Princeton, and he's a cat. He's older than both of them, but we don't know his exact age.
Well, I think that's probably true for a lot of rescue cats.
That's right.
Very cool. Do they all get along really well?
They all get along. They sleep and snuggle together. I would say that my one dog Lynx she used to be afraid of everything, including falling leaves. Um, and I guess things that she experienced out in the streets. But she was also kind of scared of Princeton because every once in a while he might want to swat or play, and she wasn't into that. But now they can sleep all together. If I'm on the
Aw,
couch, they try to join me. So
well, that's a
yeah.
cozy couch.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, how did you get started pet sitting?
Well, I've been pet sitting, I would say all along throughout, my time as a veterinary technician. Most of the times I was pet sitting for other clients that needed pet care, and they would ask the vet clinic, "Hey, do you know of any pet sitters?" And, sometimes the staff would do it. A lot of times I'd volunteer to do that. So that was one way. And then friends and neighbors, and even sometimes the veterinarians,
Hmm.
if they had things that they wanted to do, but they were like, I can't go out to this event because I have to come back and give my pet an insulin shot, and then it wouldn't make sense for me to go back out. So I was like, I'll do it. So it became something I was doing alongside of working inside the veterinary clinic.
Hmm.
And then as time went on, I decided, I want to transition out of working in the clinic full time and eventually just start my own business, because I knew there was a need for it. There was a definite need for it. And especially since I was a veterinary technician, that was also appealing to a lot of the clients who were going on vacation, but now their pet just broke its leg. Oh, we're going to have to cancel. I was like, don't cancel. I'll just come and take care of the pet. So, pets with medical needs, that they knew, they can they can trust me because I also worked for the vet and I
Mhm.
close proximity with the vet in case anything happened. So it just flourished from there.
Yeah, I can imagine that that's such an important, qualification, so many pets have medical needs from simple just they need a medication every day to more complicated things like insulin shots and things like that, and
Yeah.
the fact that you have that veterinary technician training, I'm sure comes in handy.
Yes. Yes, it
Gives
does.
people a extra sense of trust for having
Yes.
you.
Yes, it gives them a lot more peace of mind,
Mhm.
because now they feel that, okay, the person that's taking care of my pet is knowledgeable in case something goes wrong, if there's a pet emergency that happens. And then you have some pets that maybe they don't have anything medically going on per se, but they're getting older, or the client feels like they don't want them, home alone, or they're on lots of medications and they're afraid because the last person maybe wasn't medicating them properly, or they found out that the person wasn't medicating the pet. And so a lot of times, some pet parents can be traumatized by that, thinking that, they didn't do enough for their pet by really vetting the person.
Mhm.
And so, it ends up working out because with my service, I also provide them, they use a pet sitting software app that I have, and they get pet report cards. It comes with a written summary of how the visit went. It comes with pictures, occasional video, and a checkoff list for the things that we've decided. And it's GPS tracked and time stamped so that they know I'm exactly in their home at the time that we've agreed.
Yeah, wow. That's really amazing. I have gone through my fair share of pet sitters. I mean,
Mhm.
now I my husband and I, we have 6 cats and a dog, and so I get it's a big job to come over and take care of our crew, but, I've definitely had instances where I hired someone and I told them the times of day that my cats eat at this time and this time. And then I can tell through our alarm system, when someone comes through the door, and I would check and they were there like 3 hours later than they were
Yeah.
supposed to have been there. Or, you know, we were chatting before the show and I shared the story of when I hired a pet sitter and 2 days into my trip, she texted me to tell me that she forgot she had an out of town trip. And it's like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I'm already out of town. Like, I mean, just so many things like that. So finding someone who you can trust and who is going to provide that quality service for your pet is so important, and I love that you have that program. I didn't even know such a thing existed. That's so
Yes,
cool.
yes, thank you. Yeah, there's several different kinds. The one that I use I really like is it's very popular and it's ever changing. If we say that there's something we don't like about it or it's not working for the client or us, they're always doing updates to make it a better product. And I love that. People ask me, "Would you made this yourself?" And I'm like, if I made this myself, I wouldn't be It's really great. It really gives them peace of mind and it makes me feel good knowing that, if a client doesn't get back to me or respond to me after every report card, I used to be a little upset about that. Like, I'm thinking, are they okay? Why didn't they respond? But I realized it's because they're so confident
Mhm.
that they're not worried. And then some of them will get back and be like, I'm sorry I didn't respond for 2 days. I just know he's in the best hands, so I'm okay, and we've been having fun. I'm so sorry. I'm like, "Don't worry about it. It's all right. As long as you come back, I'm good."
Yeah, I mean, that really speaks volumes about people being able to trust you, because I've definitely had the opposite experience where I felt like I was having to text my pet sitter like, have you been by yet? How are the cats? How is everybody?" Because they weren't updating me.
Yes. Yes. I had one of my first clients, after, once the pandemic hit is when I really started doing my business full time. And, the first client that I had that was regular, um, one of the things she said to me was that her and her husband would race to look at the reports because the other pet sitter that they had for many years, they trusted her, but they never knew what was going on. She wouldn't send them any pictures. She, never communicated well with them. So they were just so impressed with the pet report cards and, all that. They were really excited about that. So that made me feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what other qualities do you think are important in a pet sitter? So, obviously, communication is important, and your background in being a vet tech is important. What else do you think are some qualities and qualifications that someone should look for when they're hiring a pet sitter?
Yeah. I don't think that every pet sitter has to be a vet tech. I'll say that. I think that they should have experience handling pets and taking care of pets. And they should have some references that they can show you. But I think a reliable pet sitter is one that's going to be on time, going to communicate well with the client, and has a keen sense of what's important as far as the pet's needs. So when clients, have certain concerns, they should be listening to those concerns. When the clients have certain requests, if they can't meet them, or they can, or maybe they have to make adjustments, it's important that they discuss that with them rather than them saying uh-huh, uh-huh, and then when they go, they do something else, like the person that didn't come for 3 hours. Is very important, because I feel like if the client feels you're communicating with them, you're being transparent with them, you're letting them know if there's going to be delays or anything like that, then it gives them more opportunity to trust you. And a lot of times, maybe pet sitters are afraid to say, "Oh, I can't, I got this thing that come up," just like we're at work. We don't want to say, "My car, and I really need to take care of this," because you don't want your coworkers to be mad at you. But if you let the clients know that, I find that a lot of times they are so understanding and they're so appreciative of you
Hmm.
being transparent and being honest about what's going on. Because, I don't take for granted that nowadays everybody has cameras, right? And the same way someone might have a camera to watch their elderly parent or the care of their child, they might have cameras in the home. And so
I do.
being yeah, being honest both way it goes both ways. So the client should, let us know you have cameras, but at the same time, we should act like, even though nobody's watching, somebody's watching. You should be doing everything as you said you should. So they should have integrity. They should be honest. If they make mistakes, they should be honest. Um, yeah, I think those are some of the biggest things that clients want to see in order for them to gain the trust that someone is really taking care of their pet.
Yeah. I like what you said about being honest even when you make mistakes or have something come up, like in the instance where my pet sitter went like 3 hours later, if she had told me, like something came up, I'm going to be 3 hours late, I would have been like, okay, I would have known that was going to happen and either could have found someone else if it really needed to happen in a timely manner, or, at least known that that was gonna be that way. But when somebody doesn't tell you that and then you find out later, it's like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't look good. And I think a lot of times people worry more about how good it's not going to look if you are honest and you're upfront, but it's really the opposite.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. People appreciate it when you acknowledge those things.
Yeah.
Um, what what would you say are some good ways that people can find a reliable pet sitter? So, I mean, in this day and age, we've got, Rover and all these other places. And I've heard a lot of horror stories of people using those services, right? So, where can people go? How can people find somebody?
Sure. So I think one thing to keep in mind that a lot of people don't realize is, um, there's online services that are pretty much like a way for you to reach pet sitters, like maybe care.com or Rover. They are not the company. that basically, employs these people. They are the avenue in which the pet sitter and the pet parents can meet. So even though maybe they're vetting, these pet sitters, there's opportunity for things to slip through the crack, and people not to be on the up and up as to how professional they are or not. Because obviously there's hobbyist pet sitters and there's professional pet sitters. So if you want to look for pet sitters, one of the things that you can do is you can go to your vet clinic, or a local vet in the area, or many of them, and ask them, hey, do you have a reference list of pet sitters, groomers, dog walkers, boarding facilities, that type of thing. A lot of times they'll have that list, and you can go down the list and check who you like. Those references are usually, people on that list are usually those that their clients have told them, we really like this place, or we really like this pet sitter. So that's one way. Another way is, yes, you can find them on different apps like Nextdoor, Rover Care. But when you do, or through the newspaper, or maybe even Google, when you do, you should interview them and have a at the meet and greet. And maybe even before then, when you're making that initial call, you should be asking them certain questions. You should be asking them what their experience is. Do they have references that they can send to you, both by phone or written, that you can, call? And they should be licensed, bonded, and insured.
Mm.
And with that, that's a whole nother level. That's your professional pet sitter, because your hobbyist may not have those things. They may just be doing this to make extra money on the side, or maybe they're running it like a business, but really, um, maybe they're not charging like a professional business would, which might be a red flag to most people. And then
Mhm.
if they aren't licensed, bonded, and insured, then maybe you can ask them, well, are you just starting? That might be a legitimate reason.
What does
Um,
that mean to be licensed, bonded, and insured?
so if you have a license, you have a business license for that state. You're registered with the state. If you are bonded and insured, that means you have insurance in case anything goes wrong during the visits. Your pet gets injured, your pet gets loose, your pet bites another person while you're on the walk. What, something's missing in the home. Jewelry is stolen, and you know, although there may be an issue where we're discussing, and it depends on the contract that you have, for your pet care agreement. um Maybe there were other people in the home, so not sure who's liable, but the insurance company is going to want to know that. They're going to want to know, does this client let other people, do you tell the client you don't let other people in the home while you're caring for this pet? Are you personally singularly responsible for this pet, or do they have five other people coming in and checking on the pet? Okay, so the stolen item, whose responsibility was that? The injured pet, whose responsibility was that? And so, your pet sitter should also have a pet care agreement in which the terms of service. As a client, what the terms of service are for the company. You know what to expect from the pet sitter company, and they know what to expect. You know what they expect of you.
Mhm.
um and so, yeah, so the bond is if something is lost or stolen or something like that, then the bond covers it. The insurance is for, other things that may happen as well.
Yeah. So we should always ask if a pet sitter is licensed, bonded, and insured. Are there any other important questions that we should ask?
Yeah, and when you ask them that, ask for the proof.
Mm.
They should have, just like you have a proof of a car insurance, they should have a card or some kind of notification from the insurance company that they are insured and for the period in which they're insured, and bonded. Um, as far as other things, I think to look for, You can always go at, like here in Georgia, Georgia.gov, I guess you can go and look up if a business is registered with the state.
Mhm.
Um, I can't think of anything else right now.
Well, you
Look at this list.
you were
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
thorough.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from experience. I will say, admittedly, when I first started pet sitting, because I was a vet tech, I didn't feel I need a I'm not getting licensed, bonded, and insured. I'm already a licensed veterinary technician. Why do I need this? Why do I need this? But as I researched and I learned, and I was like, oh, okay, this makes a lot of sense. This is why people would identify one person as a professional versus one person as a hobbyist, and why they might choose the other one of the other, not just because I'm a vet tech.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I especially I would think if you're pet sitting dogs, with and you're walking them, the risk is so high of an injury, a bite, an attack, a fight, something like that, and having that protection is important.
Yeah, because again, some people, they don't necessarily have the training or the understanding of what should and shouldn't happen during that dog walk.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't have the continual training. That's another thing. They should have some type of certification. They should have some type of training as to the animals that they're handling and how to handle certain situations. They should be CPR, pet CPR, and pet first aid trained. They can show you proof of that as well. Not having some of those things doesn't mean that they don't care for the pet, or they might not be a good person for your pet right then, but it should be something that they should be, you know deciding that they want to develop professionally for themselves,
Mhm.
because there's a difference between walking a dog, and there's an aggressive dog across the street or reactive dog across the street, and how you handle that situation is important
Mhm.
versus, "Oh, I'm just walking the dog, la la, and I'm looking at my phone and la la," and then you didn't tell that person, please don't come over here or whatever, and next thing you know, you have an injured dog or a dog fight.
Yeah. Yeah, and then even with cats, there's if you like I we had a cat that had to be separated from all of our other cats because she would fight, and it would be like a serious fight too, so I always had to stress to any pet sitter that came into our home, please make sure that you shut her door every time you
Yeah,
enter and leave. And one time a pet sitter didn't latch the door all the way, but she admitted to the mistake. She
yeah,
texted me right after and was like, I'm so sorry, Sassy got out of her room and I had to break up the fight. Nothing, it was real quick. I took care of it, and I appreciated that she was honest about it and told me.
yeah.
But I mean, anything can happen. You never
Yeah,
know.
things can happen. I mean, we're human. People are, we make mistakes, and just like
Mhm.
in a job, we have to give people a little bit of room and understand that things happen, and they're getting used to routines in this one household, and they may have like 50 other households that they visit. There is a different routine, which again is why it's good that we're not just, taking notes and, jotting everything down. There should be some kind of pet sitting software that helps them manage all of this information and allows the client to go in and make those changes and make those notes and notifications so that we receive them, and, we can take the best care of the pet that we can.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That kind of leads into one of my other questions I wanted to ask is how can we, as the pet owner, set you as the pet sitter up for success? What information do we need to provide to you so that way, you know what is expected. I know whenever I have someone come in, I feel like I've written them a book. It's like three pages long, and I'm like, maybe I'm overdoing it. I don't know, but better safe than sorry. I don't, so what what would set you up for success when you're going to someone's home?
Sure. Well, the app also helps take care of that. So there's sections in there where it's the client's profile, the pet's profiles, and what they get as far as what the feeding instructions are. what the medications are per cat, and any specific notes for each individual pet. So those things are in specific places, and it's easy for us to see. It's easy for the client to edit and us to shorten if we need to. So it's not a 3-page book, but um, but we still there's still some things, and it might be in your pet care agreement, your contract, some things that you want to have, so that the clients can refer back to that and make sure that they're following through. But one of the things I ask for, which a lot of people think, in vet clinics sometimes think is weird, because I'm just a pet sitter, not a boarding facility or a brick and mortar business, is I ask for annual visit and proof of annual visit and vaccination history. The reason being is I want to know that if I'm going from home to home, if I'm in a home where a pet is not vaccinated, but maybe they're sneezing or they have something that might be considered to me possibly an upper respiratory or contagious issue, then
Mhm.
I don't want to go to the next home to an immunocompromised pet or a young pet or a pet that's not vaccinated, and I'm bringing that with me. But it also allows me to see that the pet owner is responsible enough to consider the pet's care annually, whether they get vaccines or not. Rabies is required by law, so it's something that I'm going to require, and especially if I get bitten, whether the pet meant to or not, that's something my insurance is going to want to know about, workers' comp
Mhm.
is going to want to know about, and it's probably behooves everyone to go ahead and get their pet rabies vaccinated. But if the pets have been deemed, not needing vaccinations by their veterinarian, then I ask for an exemption letter. And then that puts everybody in, a safe zone. But I still kind of want to know that the pet is being seen every year because, they age 7 years for every 1 year, and diseases can progress so quickly that we didn't even know because it was silent when it happened, or we
Mhm.
didn't see any signs and symptoms. What if your pet gets sick, deathly sick, or heavily sick while you're gone, and you had no idea? I had no idea. I can take them to the vet, but this is something that maybe we could have caught early.
Yeah.
Um, and let's see. I forgot what else you asked.
I was this we were answering the
Oh,
question about setting you up for success.
what could they set us up for success? So after that, um, once we do those things, they can definitely make sure that they have enough medications, enough food while they're gonna be gone, so that we can tend to the pet. They also want to make sure that all of the labels, medications, everything is current. So if things have changed over time, then I would usually request a letter. If we're not giving this medication 3 times a day anymore, that's what it says on the label. That's what legally I'm going to do. If that has changed, I'd like a letter from the vet, so I'm doing the right thing and it's
Mhm.
documented that I'm doing the right thing. Um, and I usually say, if they have hiding places and
Mm.
your pet needs to be medicated, let's close off the hiding places. Because if you truly want me to give the pet medication, you don't want me to stress the pet out. It's probably dangerous for me and upsetting for the pet to try to pull them out from under a bed or pull them out from on a corner. Someone's going to get hurt or somebody's going to be stressed. So rather than do all of that, let's make sure we got hiding places covered. Give them a new hiding place that's not so, you know,
Difficult.
so difficult. Um, and then that'll set me up for success. Letting me know where everything is. Usually during the meet and greet, we go through where everything is: cleaning supplies, fire extinguisher, water line, main water lines,
Mm.
your fuse box, um, emergency contacts, both one that might be next of kin and one that might be a neighbor that can come over in the event we have another snowmageddon and I can't get to your pet, but your neighbor can. So many different things. And
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even thought of some of these things before. It's really a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and a lot of that has come from experiences that I've had and things that I've seen other pet sitters like. We have different groups, maybe on
Mhm.
Facebook and stuff like that. And if we've talked about something or we've experienced something, then that's something that maybe I put into my contract, or I go over with them, so that we don't have any what ifs.
Yeah. Yeah. Very thorough.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we have a question from Terry. She says, how can a client be taken seriously about coming into the home relatively scent free? It is usual to request smoke free, but a pet sitter is always going to smell like other animals.
Mhm. I would say if your pet is sensitive to the smell of other pets, then I would say, I mean, because there's going to be smells on you from different people, from every environment that you're going to be in. And if your pet is really that sensitive about it, then maybe you can ask them, can they change into other clothing or a smock or something like that? If they're going to be interacting with your pet and actually physically handling your pet, then maybe they can do something like that. But um other than that, it's kind of difficult to control the scent of a person. But if they're going to be handling lots of pets, yeah, just ask them if they can change clothes. Is something that's part of your pet care need, then they should be open to understanding that. And if they're not, find someone who is.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. So, and that's kind of, I guess, what might be considered an extra request. What kind of other services as a pet sitter do you offer aside from feeding, watering, scooping litter boxes, medicating? What other kind of requests and services do you offer?
Sure. So there's a lot. And that's because different people have different things that have come up. So I also I'm doing more grooming. I used to call it light
Hmm,
grooming, where I might do sani shaves. Obviously, I do nail trims for dogs and cats and nail dremeling for dogs. Um, I do anal gland expressions. I do ear cleanings and ear meds and subcutaneous fluids, injections, whether it's vitamin injections, not convenient, allergy injections. Um, so a lot of the veterinary nursing care things I can do as well, blood glucose monitoring. Um, but then as far as like other things that maybe you might take your pet for to the vet or to another place, I do baths for cats and dogs.
hmm,
It depends also if the temperament of the pet, right?
sure.
Um, Baths, blowouts, um, brushing, enrichment visits. So that's something new I've kind of started. So um, whereas it's not just playtime for dogs outside, but enrichment things that get them mentally stimulated, and invite them into a little sniffari kind of situation. So things that kind of enrich their lives, I'm really into. I'm really into learning now. What else? um, oh, I've done pet wedding attendant,
Oh,
pet taxi, pet pickup, pet supply pickup. So I picked up supplies from the vet or taken the pets to the vet or to another doggy daycare or grooming situation. So yeah,
you
water
stay
the plant.
busy. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
every visit is a little bit different, and
Yeah.
sometimes it can be like, all kinds of things going on, and sometimes it's just all dog walks or just all pet sitting. So it really depends. I'd like to open it up into some other things as well, but as we talked about before we got started, I need to hire some more people first before I expand.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, and um, I love that you're also not just providing basic care, you're also, going above and beyond. taking a special request like changing clothes seriously, because that can be really important in some households, and providing extra enrichment, especially I imagine on if um you know the pet owners are gone for an extended period of time, then their pets are going to get really bored. They
Yeah,
need that extra enrichment and playtime.
yeah. I noticed that a lot of people that I've spoken to have said they've had pet sitters in the past. And if when I send the report card and they're getting pictures and videos of me playing with their pets or interacting, a lot of times they'll say, doesn't really interact with people. I'm surprised. Or, my last pet sitter didn't play with them. Thank you so much for playing. And in my mind, I'm thinking that's part of the interaction. It should be. But I'm finding that a lot of people complain that their pet sitters come in, they feed, they walk, and they're gone. And yes, that can happen with some instances where pets probably don't want the interaction, or it's not safe to do the interaction. That's fine. I give the pets their space. I don't try to stress a pet out into doing something they don't want to do, because I don't want a client to come back to a cat urinating all over the house, or stress induced colitis. I don't want any of that. But I do try to build a relationship with the pet if I can in some way. But playtime to me is fun. If we have enough time to do it, after I do the basic, care needs, if we have enough time to play, I'm going to play with the pet. So
Yeah.
that's
That's
me. Yeah.
awesome. Love that. Well, going off of I more than ever now have such a deep understanding of what goes into being a professional pet sitter. So many people, though, I think probably less and less every day, but there are still a lot of people out there, especially cat owners. They're like, "Oh, I'll just put out a big bowl of food and a big bowl of water,
Mhm.
and my cat will be fine for 3 days or however long." Um, why is that not a good idea? Why should someone hire a pet sitter even for their cat?
Sure. That is a terrible, that's a setup for something that could go wrong. I've had people ask me that, or even want me to do visits like every 3 days, or
Mhm.
and I won't do it. And I think it's important to explain to them why. Um, Things can happen in an instance, the same way it can when the pet owner is at home, or things can happen when they're not home for the day, for the hour, whatever. But when you're gone for several days and you're not checking on that pet, what if the pet had a seizure that you weren't expecting? What if the pet got caught on something? Climbing the curtains or whatever, hanging. What if something fell on that happened before, a bookshelf fell on a kitten?
Ugh.
Um, and the kitten was paralyzed. And yeah, so many things can happen. It's always good for someone to have eyes on that pet at least once a day. And I've had people say, well, you don't, you're never going to see Fluffy. You'll see Fifi and you'll see Fred, but you will never see Fluffy. And I'm like, I'm going to look for Fluffy. I want to make sure Fluffy's not dead or dying or caught, in a cord, or I want to make sure. And if not, okay, but um I mean, I'm really going to try. So I need your help in not letting Fluffy hide. And there's so much you can do with how compliant the pet parent is going to be, how honest and transparent they're going to be. Um, but leaving them home alone is for days with just food. Um, it's not a good idea. You wouldn't leave a child home alone, for an hour or something like that. A small child that depends on care, you probably wouldn't do that. I have seen pets that have starved, because maybe they didn't want to eat. They got so stressed, They didn't want to eat the food. You have dogs and cats that do that in a vet clinic boarding or in a boarding facility where they're there, but they are not eating. They have their own food, they have their own treats, and they won't touch it because they're stressed there. So, what if something happens? Um, yeah, that's always, and yeah, I can't give chance. I can't give like a forecast of the chances of that happening, but with the chances that something has happened that we've seen in the vet clinic, or it's just not a good thing. So I will give people, stories about what I know, and they either choose to hire me or not, or sometimes they're like, that makes sense. That makes sense. I will at least do once a day for a cat, or twice a day for, you have some people that just want to do once a day for dogs. I'm like, they have to go outside to potty. Like,
Yeah.
have
Who
to
wants to only be able to go to the bathroom once a day?
Right. And you know what? A lot of people, I find that sometimes people, when they look at pets, they don't necessarily always see things in terms of if this was me. And then sometimes the things that we think of, oh, if this was me, my cat, if my cat is in pain, then he would be crying, then he would be doing this, then he would not necessarily.
Mm.
So the it's almost like it's flipped. The things that they should be thinking about in relation to how we might feel, they don't. But the things that they do, it's like, no, that's not how it is. So you have to educate them. I think that, to me, that's the biggest thing, is educating clients, whether it's in the clinic or as a pet sitter. Educating them is important.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the last time my husband and I went out of town, I had a really great pet sitter who was coming in and taking care, and I mean, like you said, so many things can happen, and one of my cats got sick and wasn't eating, and this was on, like, the 3rd day that we were out, the cat stopped eating, and, so, my pet sitter texted me and was like, "Sassy didn't eat her breakfast this morning," and, if somebody hadn't been going in and feeding her twice a day, no one would have known, and, what would I have come home to, but because someone was there checking on her, I was able, and since that had happened in the past before, I knew how to sort of troubleshoot the situation, and I was able to tell the pet sitter, "Well, sometimes this happens, try this other food instead," and we had, like, this extra supply of another food that she could try, and we fixed it, and, I mean, yeah, that was, just such a great example, of why having someone coming in and actually checking on your pets, laying
Yeah,
eyes on them, and keeping track of their habits while you're
that's
gone.
right. That's right. Yeah, because if you and another thing that I love about the app is that it's almost like, to me, it's almost like another document that I would have had in the clinic, when we're keeping record of how the pets are eating, drinking, urinating, defecating, interacting, behaving. If anything's off, then when the client comes back home, they can go back to those they can go back to those pet report cards and tell their vet, on
Mhm.
this day, Tia said this was going on this day this happened, on this day this happened. So they have a record that they can always go back and refer to, so they can see if there's been any progression in changes in behavior or eating or elimination. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's so important, because if you were gone out of town for a few days and you come home and your cat's sick, but you have no idea really what's been going on, you go to the vet and it's like, "Well, I'm not really sure, has she been using the litter box? I don't know," you
Right.
know? Yeah,
Exactly.
that record can make all the difference in diagnosing and seeing how far the progression of whatever it is, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah.
Ugh, yeah, this is I wish you didn't live, like, 2 hours away from me.
I know. Well,
Uh,
the good thing is there's more people out there that are out there, that are thinking about these things, that are learning that they need to be asking certain questions, not only of the clients about the pets, habits and conditions, but also, documenting these things and using apps and stuff like that that can help the client know what's going on with their pet while they're away. Um, so yeah, as people, decide that they want to train and they want to learn more and not just do this because it's fun. It has to be more than that because you're caring for lives.
Mhm.
And these are, people's little fur babies. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Kat was asking where you are. Tia's in Atlanta.
I'm based in Marietta, but I do travel to different areas. Sandy Springs, Smyrna, Vinings, Kennesaw, um, Alpharetta, Roswell, Dunwoody. So I travel to different areas. If you're greater than 10 miles out of my service area, my main service area, then I do charge a travel fee. But other than that, um, I try to make it to other people if I can.
Yeah. I think I'm probably a little out of your service
Yeah.
area.
Sorry.
Um, Terry is asking if we can have access to the app that you use. Is this an app that like just pet owners can use and get access to?
It would be your pet sitter that has the app,
Mm,
and then you'd be a client on that app. You'd be a member into their client portal.
gotcha.
Yeah.
What is the app called?
Time to pet.
Time to Pet.
Mhm. And
Cool.
there's different ones out there. I don't know all of their names. I just did enough research to know that that was the one for me.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, do you have any other final tips or advice for people as they search for the perfect cat sitter?
Yes, you want to ask when you're trying to hire a pet sitter, remember to ask them what would they do in the event of an emergency.
Mm, that's a good
Um,
one.
and let them answer the question. You can give them a scenario, a very brief scenario, and then let them answer. And then you can have a discussion about that. If there's anything that you would change from that, then that's great. I have a vet release form that after they sign my contract, they sign a vet release form, which allows me to take that form to the vet if in the event that there's a pet emergency or they need to go to the vet for something minor. The vet sees that form and they know that I've been given permission to bring this pet in and this is how they can be contacted. And yes, they will be paying the bill. I
Mm,
notify the client before I take the pet to the vet, and for the reason why. And then this way, the vet doesn't feel like some Joe Schmo off the street is just taking somebody else's pet to the clinic and who's going to pay me. And first of all, does she have permission to do this?
yeah.
So that's important. And then if you want to ask them what's going to happen if you're unable to drive or you're sick, how will my pet be taken care of? Some pet sitters like myself, there might be a network of us that maybe we cover for each other
Mm,
sometimes in the events of an emergency or we're going out of town, so we see each other's clients. Um, so you might want to ask them in that scenario what would happen.
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely an important an important one. Emergency situations, though we all like to think it would never happen, they
Yes.
do sometimes happen.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah. Well, if anybody watching or listening has any final questions for Tia, drop them in the chat and I'll keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, be sure to follow Tiah. She's on Instagram and Facebook at Supertech Pet Care. And then her website is supertechpetcare.com. And especially if you're in the Atlanta area and you're looking for a pet sitter, Tiah, she's your lady.
Yes, yes. I love to have you.
How many clients do you have? Like what's a normal day for you?
In December, I looked at the total clients that I had and I reduced it for the ones that I'm no longer doing. So it was a total of 175. But
Wow.
yeah, but then once I took out the ones that have moved, pets that I'm no longer seeing, it went down to 100. But my typical day can be anywhere from one appointment if it's a slow time and a slow season, to this past holiday week. It was a little brutal. So
Mhm.
I probably had maybe 15 appointments in a day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. And that was for like 3 days straight, and then it started going down to like 10 and then less than that. So now this week I'm back to a more regular schedule. But during holiday seasons and peak seasons like spring break, winter break and stuff like that, it can get pretty hectic. So
Yeah, I
it's
imagine
always
so.
important to request early.
Yeah, and you do overnight visits too, don't you?
I do. I do 3 different types of overnights. I do an almost overnight, which is a 2-hour in the evening and a half-hour in the morning visit. Um, and then I do a 8-hour overnight, which is usually, the pet, play and have fun kinda visit. And then I do a 12-hour overnight in the event you have a pet that has medical issues that needs a 12-hour regimen of medication and care. So,
Mhm.
3 different options.
Wow, yeah. Terry is wondering, is it helpful for clients to alert their vets that a specific pet sitter has permissions?
Yes, that is a great thing to do. Great question. Yes, you should. Anytime you're going out of town or you're going away, or even if you're not, let your vet clinic put a note in that this is your pet sitter, and that if they call for anything, whatever, then they have permission to talk to the vet about your pet's particular situation. And then when you go out of town, make sure you let them know that this week I'm out of town. If you get a call from this person, this is my pet sitter. And you
Yeah,
can give them a copy of the vet release form. If they have such a thing, you can give them a copy of that.
yeah. And then Kat says that she would want her cats fed at about the same times, 2 times per day. How does a pet sitter accommodate specific times, especially maybe if clients have similar feeding times?
Sure. So your pet sitter is going to be honest with you about their schedule. They should be. So my appointments go in time frames, and I let people know these are the time frames that's available. If they choose a time frame that is not available, let's say they wanted, morning, which would be like 9 to 11, and then they wanted an evening, which could be from 4 to 6, and they wanted a feeding time that was different or specific. If I can't do it specifically at that time, your pet is still probably going to be seen within that window. And I let them know if there's one day that, hey, I'm all booked between that time frame, I might be coming later or a little bit earlier. Is that okay? And they can say yes or no to an hour or two, or whatever they want to do. But realistically, it would be very difficult if you think about a mailman or UPS, Amazon, the person coming to fix your fridge or your washer dryer. There's a reason why sometimes they don't come on the time that they gave you. There's traffic, there's delays. There might be, they might have thought it was going to take them 30 minutes to do this one visit, and fix this fridge in 30 minutes, but it actually took 45 or 50.
Mhm.
Now that throws them back. And if somebody had something more urgent to do, like if I had a pet that I have to give medication to versus your cat that's being seen once a day just to be fed, but I have a dog that needs to be walked and given insulin, now my route might change to make sure I take care of that and then come back to your pet. So,
Mhm.
and which goes back to communication and, transparency.
Yeah, and booking your pet sitter as early as possible so you can reserve those times that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Tia, this has been so great. Thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise and your knowledge.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. For those watching, thank you as well for hanging out with us and asking your questions and being here. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. And be sure to mark your calendars for the next episode of Kitty Cat Go Live, which will be Wednesday, August 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. My guest will be Sarah Keller of Sit Stay Squat, and she'll be sharing about feline fitness and training. But that's it for tonight. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, or the follow button if you're watching on Facebook, so that you don't miss future episodes and happenings here at Kitty Cat Go. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and thanks again, Tia, for being here.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.